Welcome to Book Spotlight, and today we're going to talk about the second book in my Blood of My World trilogy called Memories of Death. And again, the title encompasses the book, and I'll explain that in a second. So as we talked about in the first episode, quick recap, Zach and Rose were sweethearts, and Zach went missing. The relationship ended as a result, but through that time, Zach found out he was a vampire, and Rose found out that she comes from a line of slayers. And then, of course, their paths accidentally cross, and now it's an issue of slayer versus vampire, vampire versus slayer. What do you do, especially when you love the other person? And also the remarkableness of seeing them after all this time. You know, there is something that we as people react to that when we see someone for a long time. We kind of get taken aback, even if we're expecting it. You know, it's just like, oh, there you are. You know, and that's part of the story in here. And what's unique about this part is this book shows the strength of their love for each other as the story progresses. Because Zach woke up with amnesia, but the more time he starts spending with Rose, the more he starts to remember his former life and what he was prior to being a vampire. And he has to kind of reconcile, like, I used to be this guy, normal guy, you know, with all the normal guy stuff. I used to like this, I used to love that. I had my parents and all the rest, you know, school, etc. And then he's like, oh no, I'm a vampire. I gotta drink blood. I know, like, I'm hungry. I could do these things that I couldn't do before, and there's something animalistic inside me that I can't quite describe, but I need to come to terms with and try to find a balance with. And so that's part of Zach's journey, and Rose too, is she's learning, like, I'm a slayer. I have this responsibility. These vampires are dangerous. You know, like, what are we gonna do? Do I have to learn this craft of slaying vampires? Like, what's going on? You know, and she finds like an inner strength, her girl power, so to speak, as she self-examines and self-reflects and learns more and more about herself and the long line of slayers that she comes from in this book. And you know, it's important because she's got to then take that knowledge, and then same way Zach has to take his knowledge and balance the two, and then still try to figure out, okay, can we still be together, you know, despite the fact that I'm a slayer and you're a vampire? What are you know? And so the plot thickens at that point. So this is the back synopsis. Now submerged in the world of vampire slaying, Rose must come to terms with what it means for her relationship with Zach, and if it's even possible for the two of them to be together. Meanwhile, every moment spent with Rose helps bridge the gaps in Zach's memory, reminding him how much they meant to each other in their former life. Rose's father, Marcus, is now even more dedicated to purging the earth of the undead, so much so he's willing to kill the only boy Rose had ever loved to help make the world a safer place for her. Likewise, a plot is in play to infiltrate the Slayer Order, even at the expense of a loved one. The countdown begins, and Zach and Rose must come to a decision as to where their loyalties lie, or if they're going to put each other above all else and face the consequences together. And that's that last line there, face the consequences together. I mean, that's, again, the love thing, right? Like, when you have somebody, you're in it together. Teamwork. I might have something, you're going to back me up. You might have something, I'm going to back you up. And that's how it works. And so, yeah, so that part of it, you know, is questioned in here, is do I have your back during this time, you know? And of course, again, lots of action, lots of vampire versus slayer fighting, you know, lots of punches put forth, lots of stakes, lots like steaks as in steaks, not steaks you eat. And yeah, and also the stakes rise too. And yeah, I tried to make the vampires deadly and ugly. They don't shine in the sun. You know, I made it like them very when they get into their like I'm gonna get you mindset, I made them very feral and very merciless in that regard. And yeah, so they just like lay into the slayers, and like the slayers of course have to lay into them back, and it's this battle, like what do we do, you know? And so it's pretty intense. And yeah, and Memories of Death, of course the decisions and the choices and the things that happen here will go into the next book, which we'll talk about on the next book spotlight video. But yeah, I'm pleased with this series. You know, I wrote it a long time ago. I wrote it relatively quickly. I don't know, a few weeks maybe for all three, because I mean they're all novellas, they're shorter, but they do make a nice set, and they do make a nice story when you read them all together. And yes, in this one you have to read them in order, because if you jumped in with this one, say in the middle, then you're jumping literally into the middle of the story. It's not like the Axiom books where you could pick up one and get a beginning, middle, and end. It's yeah, this one, like I said, it's just one long story between the three books. So anyway, Memories of Death, check it out. All right, all necessary links are in the description, and I thank you very much for tuning in today, and I will see you next week with the final installment of Blood of My World trilogy. Cheers, have a good week.